Hey everyone, thanks for joining us. My name is Chris Stanchek and this is Jenny Stanchek. We're the founders of Loveseat and a husband and wife team. We wanted to first off say thank you for taking time out of your busy day to join us today. We've never done one of these before and we're glad we get a chance to speak with you guys directly. Hopefully the technology is working, which we think it is. But anyway, yeah, thanks so much for taking time out to hear from us. For those of you who have been around Loveseat for a while and know us, it's been a wild ride together for the last few years. A lot of changes for the business, and most recently, we've gone through a big change in going into the auction business over the last year. And so we wanted to take this webinar, this opportunity to speak with you directly to share a little bit about the business, the insights that we've learned in making it work. And also share with you the growth that we've had. It's been really exciting. We've learned a ton in the last year with the auction model, and wanted to kind of go over some of that with you. The biggest thing, I guess, the biggest takeaway is there's a huge dynamic between all the people involved in an auction, unlike what we were doing before where we were just a single seller and we had customers. Now there's a true marketplace where we have buyers and sellers. And so what we want to share is kind of our learnings on making that marketplace work. It's been really exciting. We know we're onto something big because there's been some really great growth. When we launched this thing in September of 2018 in San Diego, we were really excited. That month we did we call it gross merchandise sales. We did $25,000 in sales through the auction in September of 2018. Now fast forward 1 year to the last month, October of 2019, we did over $130,000 in merchandise sales through the auction, which is huge. So that's over 5x growth in a little over a year. That's a lot to go through as a company, but we've learned a lot along the way. And we feel like we've really found product market fit, meaning that the product, which is the technology, but also the whole experience, really works for the market, which is both sides, both the buyers and the sellers. And so we want to kind of share a little bit under the hood into what makes that work and how we got to where we are today. And also now that we feel like we've really hit that product market fit and figured that out, now we're ready to kind of take the next step with the company. That's why we're raising a round of funding through this crowdfund that we're doing. If you're interested, great. We'd love to talk to you about that. If not, we'd still hope you'll stick around and hear our story. But yeah, we're just looking for people who are interested in putting like $1,000 into the company through the platform. You could go to loveseat.com/invest if you want to look at that. But basically, yeah, we're going to go through all that. If you have any questions, please, you can write them. We could see your comments in the chat. So if you have any questions, you could ask them at any point in time during this webinar. We'll probably take them at the end unless it's something that we're talking about right then, and then we can just pause and kind of answer the question. But feel free to ask those questions. We want this to be as interactive as possible. And with that, I'm going to let Jenny take away the history of the company. Just to kind of give you guys a background on us, I'm the CEO, she's the CTO. Jenny built all the technology that makes Loveseat work. So everything you see on the website is literally built by her. So she's a genius engineer and the brain trust of the company and really what makes it work. So she's going to share a little bit about the background and how we got to where we are today.
Thanks, Chris. A little background on us. Both Chris and I graduated from the Wharton Business School. Prior to Loveseat, Chris founded TicketLeap, which recently sold in a private equity deal. And I was an early engineer at Venmo, employee number 7, and I built their back-end system they use to manage users and fraud. Chris and I always wanted to start a company together. We were really fascinated by marketplaces and how there was no good solution to sell something that's one of a kind and big. So when the opportunity came up to work together, we jumped on it. We launched Loveseat back in 2013 as an app just for iPhones. That was kind of like an offer up, but for furniture only. And we went out and we tried to recruit a ton of really cool vintage furniture inventory pieces onto our platform and marketed this new app to a whole bunch of different potential buyers. And we got a lot of pieces on the platform and a lot of people looking, but there wasn't a lot of liquidity, which means there weren't really any transactions taking place. So we were trying to figure out, well, why wasn't this working? And in order to solve that mystery, we decided to become a seller on our own platform. So we went out, we found furniture, we bought it, and we sold it on our platform. And some of you might even remember coming to our little garage in Pacific Beach off an alley and shopping through our inventory there. And what we discovered was that there was like a timing problem. When you need to get rid of furniture, you need it out right now. And when you're looking for furniture and you need someplace to sit, you need it right now. And it was hard to match the timing of the sellers with the timing of the buyers. And so our little garage in Pacific Beach became like kind of a place for the furniture to sit while I was waiting for the perfect next owner. And as we saw people being willing to sit through summer beach traffic to get to our little tiny garage, we kind of knew we were onto something, and decided to go through, the next, our big first pivot, where we kicked all the sellers off the platform and just decided that this was going to be the business. We turned into a hybrid retail and e-commerce platform for vintage furniture. We got a big warehouse in San Diego and opened up Los Angeles with an even bigger warehouse, and became quite successful at being this way to buy furniture both through the internet and online in those two cities. And the way to grow this business was to grow our inventory, sell more pieces. But every piece we brought in had to fit this perfect inventory equation. We had to buy it at the right price so we could sell it at the right price and have the exact right style and size and type of piece that people that were our customer base, which is people living in apartments, were interested into, so that we could have a high inventory turn, which means pieces were selling quickly. We could sell more pieces with the amount of physical space that was limited that we had to sell it. So in order in this quest to get more of the right inventory, we had buyers in both cities. So we had 3 buyers in LA and 2 buyers in San Diego trying to get more and more inventory to sell through our platform. Meanwhile, we set up this big funnel net on our website where people could submit leads that when they had stuff to sell. So, we kept hearing from people like Bob, who either was downsizing or had a death in the family and needed to get rid of a whole house full of furniture. We would come in and we would only see 5 pieces maybe in that entire house that fit our perfect inventory equation of things at the right price and the right style that we found that we could make money on. But this wasn't really a great solution for Bob because he had to get rid of everything. And we kept seeing this happen again and again and again, and came to believe that there was kind of a huge supply side problem, or an opportunity for whatever company could solve that. Meanwhile, in our quest for more and more inventory, we started shopping at these big in-person auctions. And be these 6-hour-long events where people would go and these auction houses would sell tons and tons of furniture and other decor goods. And based on the way that their fees were, they made money on every single transaction. They didn't have this magical inventory equation where they could only sell a certain number of pieces. So they were able to liquidate lots of pieces and always made money on every transaction. But because the auctions were in person and 6 hours long, the only people at those auctions were people like us who were professional, inventory or furniture resellers. So really, all those people also had their own magical equation. So the amount that the auction houses could get for each piece was kind of capped at a certain point. So what we saw was we could use our competency at tech and selling furniture directly to the end consumer to bring these massive auctions online in a way that was approachable for the people who just really wanted something cool for their house, the casual end consumer. So back in September of 2018, we took a big risk and we shut down our entire San Diego retail business. Some of you might remember getting an email from us saying, hey, last chance to buy, something big is coming. And 3 weeks later, we held our first online auction. And it went really well. And we brought the online auction to LA to run alongside our retail business a couple months later in December. And now, over a year later, we've moved the entire business in both cities to these online auctions. And along the way, we feel like we've perfected a technology that can liquidate large amounts of inventory at scale in a way that's approachable for the casual shopper and profitable for us as a company. So now I'll spin it back over to Chris to tell us more about that.
Yeah, really great summary. So I mean, the thing that Jenny said is we've created something that can liquidate, at scale, almost anything. And that's really what we feel like we've sort of cracked the code on, not just on the tech side, but also on the whole product experience side with the way we do things. And, when we were working before, we were just doing vintage furniture. We've expanded into contemporary furniture, all types of things, furniture pieces for the household, but also things beyond furniture, decor now, and also household items. and really solving that problem for the person who has to really liquidate an entire estate. So we've had the craziest things being brought in: surfboards, crystals. Someone sold a bunch of geodes through our auction, power washers, tools, all kinds of things you could think of, and everything sells. So we're, in the last year, we feel like we've really figured out how to create, or how to have something that can sell almost anything at scale. And the thing that makes that work is, like I said before, it was really just, us and the consumer. So there's really two parties involved, the person purchasing and us, the company selling it. But now there's the other party, which is the seller, that's involved as well. So there's really like three different perspectives at the table here that we need to solve for. The first is the buyer's perspective, and they have specific things that matter to them. We call buyers bidders, which are, because they're bidding in an auction. The sellers have their own perspective. That's, we call them consigners, because they're consigning the inventory into the auction. And the third one, which we care a lot about, is Loveseat's perspective on just running a successful business. So I'm just going to kind of highlight those. And this is really, I think, the magic that makes it work, is kind of balancing all three of these. So if you're a bidder bidding in the auction, the most important thing to you is understanding like what it is that you're buying and understanding the quality level of those pieces. That's why, we have this really fantastic studio photography. We take detailed pictures of things, of everything that's for sale. We try to really do a good job of covering if like there's a problem, to make sure that it's clear and people can see it. And a lot of effort goes into that. So if a piece has a flaw, we want people to know about it from the photos. But at the end of the day, we can't completely do can't cover every single issue. And so that's why we have these in-person inspections, which is to give people an opportunity to preview the items, to come into our warehouse and see it in person for themselves. And that really kind of gives everyone the understanding that they know what they're buying. And we feel like that's super important, that people feel comfortable, that they know what they're getting into. And that's why we have that, even though it's a pretty expensive thing to do each week to make it viewable, all the pieces. The other thing that's really important to bidders is knowing that they're getting a great price. And, unlike retail, where you have like a vintage store that's charging, 3 or 4x markup on pieces, this is an auction. It's closer to like a wholesale price, but in a very convenient way. So we want to make sure consumers know that they're getting the best possible price. And that's really what we provide through this experience. The people who are bidding are all other people who are also after the same thing, which is getting a great piece at a great price. And so that's important. And the last thing is just getting really unique inventory. Each week in each city, we have hundreds of pieces for sale, and every week it changes again. So, we have thousands of people looking at the auction. Not every single person bids every single week, but, people are passively looking. They come back every single week over and over again to see what we have. So that's really important from the perspective of the person buying. The seller's perspective, which is completely different, the thing that's most important to them, and this is a consigner, is the speed. So if you have like, just say, one piece of furniture to sell, you might sell it on Craigslist, you might sell it on Facebook Market, and those cases are perfect for getting a lot of value. It's relatively easy. It's not the easiest thing, but it's not that bad to sell a single piece. But if you have a whole house full of things to sell, it's extremely difficult to sell on those platforms, and there's not really a good solution, or hasn't been a good solution up until now. What we provide is a really fast solution for you to liquidate an entire estate, furniture and everything in it. We make it really easy for people. So, oftentimes we'll pick things up if appropriate. But basically, in a week you can have everything out of your life, and then we can turn it into cash for you. And the last thing that, from a seller's perspective, is they want to get paid. I know that's like kind of obvious, but it hasn't always been the case where auctions pay out very quickly or transparently. So for every single person who sells on our platform, they get a full report on every single piece. They could see the inventory. They could click through to the website and see exactly how many bids those pieces got, what the maximum bid was, and then what their cut is based on the agreement. So it's almost like a transparency report, and we feel like that's super important to keep that good relationship with the consigners, to have that really clear reporting. And the people who consign are people who have a whole estates, and also people who are just in the business of helping people to get out of their estates. So we have people who week after week after week consign with us. And one thing to note is that there's a lot of crossover between those two sides. So we have bidders and consigners who, one week someone's the bidder and the next week they're the consigner. So we have a lot of cross-pollination in our platform. But the last perspective that's a really important one to us is Loveseat, the company. So this is like what do we care about? Above everything else, the most important thing to us is efficiency. So we like to have a very efficient operation that's critical in the auction business to keep it highly efficient. And for us, that means having a very low overhead. So you guys know we have relatively small warehouses. We do a lot with a little in terms of the space that we have. And the teams that we have running those warehouses are small teams. They're highly skilled people who work for us. All of our employees, we think, are stellar, almost like a SWAT team, who they understand, not only how to move furniture, but they know how to take pictures of it. A lot of our warehouse people can take photos, help customers understand what different styles of furniture are. So, we have a highly trained team of individuals working for us who we think are great and is essential to keeping our overhead low, because we can't have a huge team of people. And that's really important to us. Part of what makes that possible to have this efficiency is to have roles in place. And so to those of you who have purchased through us or have consigned in our auction, you know that we have very specific rules. Those are really just about keeping the business efficient. So for instance, when somebody buys something, they have to pick it up at a certain time. If it's not picked up in that time, then it ends up accruing a fee associated with storage of that item. It's not because we're trying to make fees on storage, but it's really because we want to make sure that we keep having our space available for the next pieces that are coming through the auction. And so that efficiency is critical business, and that's why we have those rules in place. And the last thing is really just knowing that we have predictability in the business. Looks like we have a connection issue. Hopefully it comes back. But knowing that we have predictability in the marketplace. And the thing that we're talking about is knowing that we will always liquidate, everything that we have all the time. So really having that scalable marketplace is super critical to us, having the predictability at scale. And the thing that makes that work is this thing called network effects. Knowing that if you have a healthy marketplace, it has network effects, meaning that as the marketplace grows, as more people join, the overall market becomes more valuable to everyone involved. So when the next person joins, the value of the whole becomes better because there's another person involved. And that's really what makes it healthy. So with each new participant, it's getting better. And with that, that helps us to know that we have a predictable marketplace that can sell inventory at scale. So that's kind of like brings us to where we got to today. So our vision is twofold. One, we want to take what we have today in San Diego and Los Angeles and roll this out nationally. So we want to have, it would be great to have warehouses in every single market. These warehouse operations are profitable today. And so we think there's an opportunity to have 30 Loveseats throughout the United States, kind of in every major market. But beyond that, we see this opportunity, and it's part of what we're talking about today, to have this new concept called remote auctions. So if you think about it, the most expensive part of our business and of the whole thing is getting the inventory from someone's house and moving it around. So for instance, if someone has an entire house full of furniture, it has to go from the house into a truck, from a truck into our warehouse, into a staging area. Each of those pieces has to get photoed. After they're photoed, they have to go into another kind of storage area. Eventually, they have to go into a preview area. And finally, somebody who purchased it comes and picks it up out of our warehouse. That's a lot of moving, and that's like the most expensive part about the whole business. We feel like we have this really great technology that can kind of liquidate anything, but the moving part of it is very expensive. So where we want to get to eventually is to have the ability to remotely hold these auctions. So for instance, if somebody has an estate full of inventory that they want to sell, that we could actually go in, take pictures right where the things sit, and sell everything in the week, and then people can come pick it up from there, or a moving company can come move it to the buyer's house from the estate itself. We think that's a highly scalable business, and that's kind of where we want to go. And that means that Loveseat can be a lot bigger than just what we could do with the warehouses. And then ultimately, the vision is to really have like an eBay for everything big. So eBay is really great for selling small collectibles. Craigslist is really great for selling one-offs here and there of bigger things in a local market. But we want to be kind of like a trusted broker for everything big in local markets throughout the United States, and not just in our warehouses, but also through these remote sales, these remote auctions that we're talking about. So that kind of covers like the direction of the company, where we're going. We want to scale this up. We feel like we're in a really great place right now with the technology. We have considered bringing in venture capital money, like VC dollars, into the business, But our goal is to really keep it small and in a family. That's why we're opening this up to other people to invest if they're interested. And so for us, we're doing this funding round through this thing called WeFunder. If you want to look at it, you can go to loveseat.com/invest. There's 50,000 committed so far into the round, but we're looking for people who are interested in putting $1,000 or more in. 150,000 would really help us accelerate our growth as a company. And just kind of like to cover, if you have any questions on the actual deal, it's called a SAFE, which is a simple agreement for future equity, which basically means if you invest dollars now, at the time when we raise more money or when we sell the company later on, your dollars invested will actually go and convert into that round. And we're capping that at 7 million. So basically, if you've ever seen Shark Tank, the investors are always trying to get a lower valuation, and the entrepreneurs are always trying to get a higher valuation. So what we're doing is capping it at 7 million. So that means that if the company later on raises money at $50 million, any money that gets put in now will convert as if it's at 7 million. So that means it's a better deal for the investors. And then if we end up raising money at a lower valuation, then you convert into that lower valuation. So you kind of get it, you get a better deal on the upside and on the downside. And then also on an exit as well. So if anyone has any questions about that, you can just reach out to me directly. Email Chris, CHRIS, @loveseat.com. So you can reach out to me that way, or you can look at our website, loveseat.com/invest. So that just covers the investment side of it. We're really excited about the business, though, on where we've gone and where we're going. I see we have some questions here, so we will take them. Yeah, okay, I see a question. Someone asked, what do we do with items that do not sell? Do you want to take that one?
Sure, I'll take some of it. So we start the bidding for most items at $10. So we actually have a really great sell-through rate in our first week. About 92% of the items we list every week sell that week, and which is awesome. And if for some reason they don't sell, it's usually because it's a tiny decor item that maybe didn't have a lot of value, or it's something that was a little damaged. In that case, we automatically relist it the next week at a $5 starting bid. And if for some reason it doesn't sell at $5, we list it at $1. We do have a clause in our consignor agreement that if something doesn't sell after 3 auctions, we have the ability to donate it. Right as of now, we've really had to do that on like just a handful of pieces I could count on my fingers.
Right, and anything that doesn't sell, which is like Jenny said, just single pieces, throughout thousands, has gone to Habitat for Humanity or AMVETS. There's other organizations that we can donate to, but that's a really good question. Someone was mentioning that they wish they got more for the pieces in the auction, and the photo fees were expensive. Yeah, so the photography fees, so we charge a photo fee per piece of $10. That kind of comes off the top. What that does is covers the cost associated with taking pictures. We want to make sure that we have like high quality items coming in. And so, if we didn't charge that, then we actually didn't in the beginning. And pieces were coming in that were kind of extremely low value, and it almost became like a dumping ground for things. And we didn't want that to happen. And so we're trying to keep the quality level up by saying like, pieces have to have like a minimum value, in order for folks to make money on it. That way people bring in better things. And the other thing is not everything is as sellable as some people might think. So for instance, traditional like dining room sets or china cabinets that cost $10,000 when they came out, now are worth, maybe $100 if you're lucky. And that's just a matter of kind of the demand in the business. So, by having a very transparent auction, people can see, that certain things are highly desirable or going for a lot of money, like thousands of dollars, and certain things that aren't going for very much. And so we want to be as, clear as possible. And that's why everything is transparent. Everyone can see the pricing. So the next question is, someone asked about why don't we let people come into our retail location? Seems like a real life buy it now. That's an interesting one. We've actually thought about that, having the ability to kind of say like pieces that are consigned in the auction would have a buy it now price, that if somebody just wanted to not even bid on it and just take it out of the auction right away. That's something we've thought about. It's a little bit complicated because, like I said, we have consigners, and our goal is to try to get them the most money possible. So sometimes, we don't know everything. So sometimes we'll have a piece that we don't think is worth very much of anything. And then all of a sudden it's $800 and there's something we didn't know. So for instance, if there was a piece that was $800 and we had to buy it now at $200, then the consignor is getting a $600 hit against them because it's not selling for sort of the efficient market pricing. But there is a way to do that, to have them be able to set that price. And so I think that's something that as we grow could be an option.
Can I jump in just also on that? Also, like, one of the reasons we don't let people come into our warehouse to view upcoming information is just like the physicality of what we're doing. We have all these pieces of furniture, and again, like I was talking about, a limited amount of space. So it's actually like a pretty crazy balancing act that we do in the warehouses themselves, between having a place where all the pieces come in, get photoed, then when it's right before the preview time for that auction, get staged for viewing area. Back when we were a retail outfit, you had to have every single piece you had viewable at a time, which means it takes up a bunch of square footage, and actual physicality. So because we have just the amount, or the pieces that are on sale right now viewable, it enables us to do more with less space.
Great. Someone asked, how many hours do we typically work each day? I don't know if that's about Jenny and I or the company as a whole. The individuals, folks who work with us, all work generally an 8-hour shift, like a normal job. But they said it seems pretty intense. It is intense, but the thing that's kind of the magic behind the scenes that nobody sees is the technology. So we have this almost automated, or in a lot of ways automated engine that we've custom built, that Jenny custom built. Does everything from the payment management to the promotions, like the emails that go out to people. Like, there's so much stuff that's completely automated in the system. Even the management of our own team, like different things that people need to do. There's a lot of automation there that kind of self-manages to help remind people about what they need to do every day.
I like to say there's way more Loveseat that the customer does not see than the one that the customer actually does see. So there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that lets us control the flow of inventory that hasn't even arrived in our warehouse yet. And as far as like the staging of the auctions and as Chris was saying, marketing it out to our marketing channels.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and also just like keeping track of this inventory. If you can imagine having, 500 pieces sometimes of unique, one-of-a-kind of things and not losing anything, that's quite hard. But we built tech that enables us to do that. And that's the magic of the company beyond everything else. I think another question, someone saying, don't take your growth slowly. No need to ramp up too fast. Yeah, so we definitely agree. We're trying, we're not saying we want to go out and jump into 30 markets right away. We are, right now in San Diego, Los Angeles. The next place we want to go is Orange County. We're going to start doing some testing on these remote auctions very shortly, but in a test way. So it's basically doing it very slowly and methodically. We definitely want to be a business that grows in a healthy way, meaning that we're profitable with each step of the way. And that's where we want to go. Someone thanks us for our wonderful staff. Thank you so much. Yeah, we're very happy. We love our employees. We think they're absolutely unbelievable people and highly knowledgeable. So we appreciate them very much. I purchase a lot of good small things. Does your consignor make more money as items that sell for under 10? Yeah, so it depends. So we say we have our $10 photo charges. Sometimes folks sometimes we do different photo fees for different circumstances. So if someone has an entire estate with us, we can sometimes give them better deals on single items. But yeah, it really depends on the circumstances. But we definitely try to do our best to make our consignors happy because they're ultimately the inventory flow through our system. Yeah,
just the way our system is built. Someone says, do you have like a sliding percentage scale? We have the ability to set special rates for certain consignors. Our system is very flexible, but we have as far as developed this kind of fee system that we think with a $10 photo fee that incentivizes consignors to bring us the right type of inventory, that our particular bidders are looking for.
Yeah. So yeah, and basically so some folks who consign with us regularly have they'll bring us higher end things, and we have special relationships on those. What keeps us up at night? The thing that keeps me up at night is kind of crazy. Well, besides our two toddlers, we on top of all this, we have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old.
He's almost 2.
Yeah, he's almost 2. But basically, what keeps us up at night, or at least me, is I feel like there's something here that's bigger than us now. Like the company has kind of taken a life of its own, and it's basically beyond just us. It has its own life, and the main thing is I just want to make sure that we can, be to help see it to be successful and not make any mistakes, or at least make small mistakes, and really let it live out its true potential of the business. So I just don't want to mess it up, I guess is what I'm saying. I feel like there's a huge opportunity here, and I want to see this be a huge company. I don't mind it if it takes a really long time to get there, but the thing that keeps me up at night is like making it a big misstep, and we're trying really hard to avoid that. I didn't make it running. Yeah, I'm not sure. Someone's asking, how do I get a special list? Well, you can email me, chris@loveseat.com. We could talk about the unique circumstance. Someone has great conversation pieces around their home. Thank you so much. We appreciate that.
It's pretty wild to see like the type of pieces that come in. Usually like the more unique the piece, the more it'll go for, particularly in markets like Los Angeles, where like I feel like people are on the hunt for like not just your regular run-of-the-mill furniture that you see these days, but like a really cool piece of art or a rug or like a crazy statue. There's been some crazy stuff we sell. So like really unique stuff sells generally for a lot. And, usually like the more vanilla pieces sell for a lot less than the consigners think, based on what they paid for it originally.
Yeah. Someone asked a question, if they invest in the company, the only time they can make money back is when we sell it. That's sort of like the default by the agreement. But if it ends up being where this becomes a business that kind of grows very slowly and isn't the type of thing that we're trying to sell at an exit, we could end up turning this into like a business or a type of situation where we pay out a dividend to investors or some other sort of agreement. But that's kind of to be determined based on when we get there. But ultimately, like, we love to have investors in the business who are happy and make money on us. So yeah. So there's a lot of flexibility in this agreement, this safe, simple agreement for future equity. If you look it up, it's actually created out of Y Combinator, which is like a startup accelerator in San Francisco that a lot of people know. Yes, someone says millennials like unique items. That's definitely true. Like we're super focused on having unique things, and every week having unique stuff that you can't find anywhere else. And so in LA, especially, like the number of people who are after those unique items, it's really interesting. It's almost like if somebody wants something, they're going to pay almost anything to get it because they won't get it again afterwards. Do you want to take that one?
Sure. So someone asked about reserve prices. So again, kind of like we're really into this transparency thing, and we allow minimum bids on our pieces, but not reserves. So the difference between a minimum bid and a reserve is the minimum bid is like where the bidding starts. So as I said, most pieces have a minimum bid of $10. That means you could bid for $10, and if nobody else won, then the item would sell for $10. And so we do have the ability to set a higher minimum bid, say $100 on a piece if you want to start the bidding there. Now, after auctioning off all the items we've auctioned off in the last year, we've tested this both with our own inventory and consignor inventory, and we found that a higher minimum bid scares people away. A lot of times when we've lowered the minimum bid or gotten rid of it, the piece that we had a higher minimum bid on sold for a lot more than that minimum bid, just because we found like it kind of like a lower price hooks bidders in early. They place a bid on it for $10. They think about where they're going to put it in their house, and now it's $50. Okay, I'll get a little bit more. And then all of a sudden a piece gets hot because everyone's emotionally attached to this piece that maybe had a higher starting price they would have just passed over. A reserve bid is when you start the bidding at $10, but you won't actually sell it to a bidder unless it hits a secret price behind the scenes, like $100. For us, we don't like it that way because we want people who are, placing a bid, which is with an intent to buy, to be able to buy it at that bid they placed for it. I don't know if that answered the question.
Yeah, and it's also the other one is just like for us, success in the auction is having a lot of engagement around pieces. So like we do, when you get outbid, you get a text message notifications letting you know that you've been outbid. And then, we've ourselves like bought things for our own house through the auction. It is like a little exciting when that's happening. So, basically that's part of it, is having that engagement. If there was reserve bids and minimum bids, you wouldn't have that engagement level. It'll be more like a regular retail experience, which is not what we're after.
So there is a little bit amount of risk, if you're a consigner consigning with us. And so the great thing is we feel like we have been able to get great prices for great items that are in style and unique and happening right now, but there is a risk the consigner takes consigning with us.
And then someone asked also about like the number of people registered for the auctions. Right now, each auction has hundreds of people that register, meaning they're putting their credit card numbers into the auction itself. And then on top of that, there's thousands of people that kind of view the auction. And of those thousands of people will register for different auctions depending on which pieces they're looking for. So our mailing list is in the tens of thousands. And they're all, people who have interacted directly with our company at some point in time.
Part of the magic, I think, is that like our auctions happen every week, so it's predictable. It's become a part of thousands of people's like weekly routine. You're like, oh, it's Thursday. Let me see what like new pieces just got posted on Loveseat. So that's like another advantage we have over other different outfits that maybe have an auction once a month or once every few weeks. For us, like this is just someplace you can always look back to see what's there.
Right. There's a question on like the growth plan for the $150,000. Essentially, there's a few different factors there. One is we want to have at some point we want to open up in Orange County, which we think is the next kind of city that we want to be in before we kind of ramp up and go anywhere else. But the first step for us is really to kind of develop these remote auctions and test them in the markets where we exist today. Whereas we feel like having like a warehouse presence and then having remote auctions on top of that would be a much bigger opportunity than just having warehouses themselves. So what we want to do is test that with where we are today. And then after that, basically there's an opportunity to expand the warehouse business that we have in the markets that we're in today. Los Angeles is arguably the biggest market in the United States for this. So our goal is to be the largest online auction business in Los Angeles. And I think we could do that. I see a direct path to us being able to pull that off. And then also in San Diego. And so we want to spend a little bit more time just kind of like ramping up those businesses and really perfecting everything there. Orange County is almost like a given because it's right between the two markets. So we could kind of like have Southern California on lock. And then after that, there's other markets that we've identified throughout the United States that actually aren't regional to us, where we think there's big opportunities. But before we take that step, we want to make sure that we have everything completely figured out before we kind of go into the next city. But there's, a certain amount of costs associated. You have to get trucks and warehouses and people and all that. So we would just want to make sure we kind of walk before we run. But the $150,000 should really get us there. And that's kind of the plan. And I don't really want to get into like the exact markets because we feel like that's a bit proprietary, but we've done some analysis on which markets are the next ones to be in. The split to the consigner, someone asked, it comes out to roughly 50-50, after photo fees. It all depends on the price point of the piece. So it starts off at like a 60-40 split, but on lower price point pieces, that $10 has a bigger influence on the actual percentage split. And then also we've done, if someone's bringing us really high end stuff, we've done better deals here and there, one-offs. Who are our competitors? Well, locally, it's really just traditional auction houses, but we think it's really a different kind of customer. So, we have good relationships actually with local auction houses, and we think there's a place for that. But, in terms of like individual consumers, it's really about, they want to bid online, they want to buy online. So it's really like the shopping habits of the individual. Today people look at Facebook Market and Let Go and things like that. But we feel like this is like a new category. There are a couple other online auction platforms, but no one that really kind of tailors towards the individual consumer like we do. There is a company called Everything But the House out of Ohio that did something like this, but they kind of had some real scaling issues with certain aspects of how they scaled the business, which were definitely avoiding some of those things. But yeah, currently we feel like it's a greenfield opportunity in the market and quite large that we don't really face any significant competitors right now.
Yeah, and again, one of like the things that we bring to the table is with the online auction, it's an auction, which may not be a format that people are used to buying in, but the way that we present it through our website is like very similar to like a regular retail or e-commerce shopping experience that people are used to. And we think that helps. And there's no other online auction companies that are really doing it the same way right now.
Yeah. Someone asked about interior designers. Do we have alliances? We don't have any formal alliances with interior designers. We are a member of the Set Directors Society of America, which is like basically in LA, it's a big group that is all the set decorators for like all the studios. So they buy from us and then they also consign inventory to us. It's a great organization. So that's one. Individual interior designers. We have a lot of interior designers who purchase from us and also consign to us. But there's no like specific alliance currently. There's definitely a lot that are members of our audience. And yeah, also staging companies that work with us. There's furniture rental businesses and stagers that use us as ways of liquidating inventory that they have in their warehouse that they kind of want to get fresher stock that we help them liquidate. And also vintage shops, consignment shops, a lot of them bring inventory to us as ways of liquidating inventory for things that they either don't want to bring into their store or things that that they've had for a while and they just want to move it out. So we have partnerships with a lot of different groups. The average age of our bidders, I don't actually have an average age, but I'd say it's probably a little older than you would think. So we originally thought with this like sort of high tech experience that we would have mostly like millennials shopping, but it's actually a little bit older than that, more of like the baby boomers. And yeah, so it's we see the same people every week coming into our warehouse, and it's really great that the technology we've really built it to try to be user friendly for everybody, so that's working.
Yeah, it's been kind of an interesting finding that back when we were doing more retail, is like the people are buying were people who had just moved and need a couch, for their new house. But now the bidders that are on our platform that keep coming back every week are less like needs based and more like they're enthusiasts. They love anything antique and Asian. So, they're checking every week to see if we have anything cool new that fits that thing, or they have like a certain style guide, or, they just want to liven up their house. So it's less like they're looking for something specific and more looking to be like tantalized with something new that's on our platform.
Yeah, I think there's also like a little bit of a difference between the Los Angeles market and the San Diego market. I think LA would definitely be a bit of a younger audience. And one of the things we've seen though is like the sort of like, just on that point, is like inventory that's highly unique and different. Like in LA goes for almost infinite amounts of money because there's a lot of money in LA and people just want that one of a kind thing. And things that are like really nice but average and everyday really don't fetch very much money at all in Los Angeles. So it's really, LA is all about having the unique one-of-a-kind things. Cause marketing, someone asked about. We're not really doing any cause marketing right now, but an idea that we have, and this is like, we haven't figured out how to do this exactly yet, is for people, if they consign inventory to us, to be able to pick an organization that they would like the proceeds of the consignment to go to. So it's almost like you could have a shopping list of various nonprofits, and then basically the proceeds from the auction would go to the nonprofit, and you could get the tax write-off on the sort of declared value of the piece, not necessarily the auction value, but the appraised value of the piece. So it could actually be a better benefit to the consignor because they could get a tax benefit that's greater than the proceeds from the sale itself, and also the organization could get a benefit because they can get the proceeds from the sale. So we have to figure out the legality of all that and how to do it, but it would be great to almost have like a way when someone's consigning, say like, do you want the money or do you want to send it to, these various different groups? I think it could work. And also, we don't really talk a lot about the kind of sustainability about what we're doing and, recycling inventory and, basically sharing furniture and decor rather than buying, new pieces from overseas. We think that's a great kind of like underlying meaning behind the company. It's definitely something that we care about, but we feel sometimes the most successful causes are ones that you don't necessarily like shout from the rooftops, but instead are just kind of ingrained in the business and the brand itself. So we really want to kind of recognize that, but we don't try to play it off too much because then it doesn't seem legitimate. Someone asked about selling large pieces of decor, every tiny item someone's group. Yeah, so right now we've started branching out into everything, including tiny things. We don't want to sell things. We don't want to be in the business of taking pictures and listing things that are worthless, because then that's not good for anybody. But we can do, for instance, we have a book auction coming up where we have hundreds and hundreds of books. If you're a book collector, like, it's crazy how many books we have. Antique books, a lot of them from the 1800s, but a lot of them also from the early 1900s. So, rather than just throwing them out, we think there's real value there, and we wanted to sell them. So we're going to have an auction specifically for books. And we think there's, tools is another thing. Like, older tools are actually great because the quality level of them, the build level is really, really good. A lot of people want older tools. So, we don't want to just, dispose of them. So we're branching out and trying a bunch of different things to see kind of which types of things work. A lot of like plates and silverware and things like that have actually done quite well. Good modern kitchen appliances, good modern things for the kitchen do quite well. So basically, it's not just furniture and decor, but all kinds of household things.
Can I jump?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we got started because there wasn't really a good situation for selling large items, but that the definition of large also like transfers to large quantities. If you have a whole house of stuff, like, yes, selling a small thing on eBay makes sense, but selling a zillion small things on eBay is crazy. So we found that we're also still a good solution for that small stuff, especially if you have a bunch. One thing that we're able to do to help drive the value, is group things together. So don't just sell one plate or one figurine, but a whole collection of that. And so then we're still able to get like the average sale price from those small items, like up to a place where it's worth us taking a picture and listing it on our website. And another thing too is the great thing about small stuff, is a lot of these small collectibles sell for as much money, as a china cabinet. And just from we're talking about efficiency of space and moving and the resources needed to do all that, like it makes a lot of sense from a business standpoint to sell those types of items.
I think another question is, do all your auctions cover LA and San Diego at the same time? People can bid from either city and either auction. So currently San Diego auctions end on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. and LA, or I guess the items start closing at 7 p.m. on Wednesdays, and in LA they start closing at 7 p.m. on Thursdays. So basically we have folks who buy from both auctions. We have folks who sell in both auctions. There's a lot of crossover. But yeah, it's open to both cities currently. And that's why, right smack in between LA and San Diego is Orange County, which is a huge market. So it just makes sense for us to be there, which we do intend to do. We have a lot of interest from that market as well. So, and I guess like geographically speaking, everything we're selling is purchased more or less locally. We've had people, a lot of times people come from Palm Springs and places like that, which is a bit of a drive to either of those cities to pick things up, or we have people from LA coming down to San Diego or vice versa. But ultimately we think it's like the key is to having it be a localized marketing effort. Why is the tax on the buyer's premium?
Because the state collects it.
Yeah, the state collects the tax on the wholesale.
Yeah, the state, as far as like looking at our revenue, like there's auction law, and we've looked into it, and I'm the one that does all the payments and the taxes. So I feel you, but I have to remit to the state tax on both the auction price and the buyer's premium, which is why we collect it.
Cool. Are there any more questions? I'll give it another second. I don't see anything. All right. Well, everyone, again, thank you so much. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to join us. Again, we hope you'll join us in this journey. If you want to reach out to us, just email me. My email is Chris, CHRIS, @loveseat.com. That's my personal email. I will get it. And then also, again, if you're interested in investing, we really hope you'll join us in that. You can go to loveseat.com/invest. And yeah, so it's open to everybody, not just accredited investors. And the company we're using is called WeFunder. They're helping to provide this whole platform for us. And the investment is, registered with the SEC. So it's a legitimate investment. You're actually, investing in the company. And we really appreciate that. But thanks so much for taking the time. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.